What's up guys, Manny the Monkey here, welcome back to the channel. In the last vlog episode I claimed that I got footage from both an 8A flash attempt and the subsequent second Go Ascent, and that's what the video at hand is going to be about. I want to use these clips to make another side-by-side comparison, taking a look at strategy, climbing style, mistakes and all the interesting stuff essentially. Now, to give you a little bit of context while I'm warming up in the background, the route is an 8A or 513A in world famous East Austrian limestone and the super classic route of this particular crag. Which is why I decided a longer time ago that I want to save it for an on-site or a flash attempt. Now recently a friend of mine, who by the way is belaying me during the tries, started projecting the route, and since I was belaying him a lot as well, I became more and more familiar with his beta until I got to a point where I thought, man, you're having a decent day today, you know all this stuff, let's give it a go. Here I should mention that flashing an 8A would be a rather amazing accomplishment for me, as I've never flashed an 8A before, although I on-sighted a few. And these on-sites took place in relatively on-site friendly areas in Spain, namely Magaluf and Siurana. The reason why I saved the super classic of the crag for this attempt is that, at least in my opinion, it is relatively hard to send a route first go in East Austrian limestone. The routes here are usually hard to read, with strange moves, strange cruxes, and are generally not very consumer friendly, if you know what I mean. There's only a few classic consumer friendly lines with outstandingly simple solutions, especially in the higher grades, and I figured this route might be one of them. It's not very long, about 15 to 20 meters, which is good because solutions can be easily observed from the ground. It consists of a shorter, lower part which leads to a no-hands rest. From there a longer power endurance section starts, which makes up about 2/3 of the route and contains the crux, which is situated quite close to the top. Another interesting detail is that there's a big morphological difference between the guy who projected the route and myself, in that he is much taller. That means that we both have to be very careful when we take beta from the other one, because it occurs quite often that we have different crux moves and or different solutions on the same route due to the vast difference in reach. So with all this background info kept in the back of our heads, let's proceed to the actual climb. Although both attempts are displayed, the flash attempt on the left, the second go on the right, we are only going to hear the sound of the flash attempt. I think it's more interesting because you can hear our vibrant discussion about beta throughout the whole climb. I timed the climbing in such a way that both guys start at the same time from the ground and from the subsequent no-hands rest for better comparison. And there we go. What you should instantly notice is the difference in speed. While I'm quite tentative and careful in the flash, I'm much more aggressive and determined in the second go. For obvious reasons, I already know about the hold qualities and directionalities in front of me. The climbing is not particularly hard, but quite interesting in the beginning, a lot of tufas, which is quite unusual for East Austria. A funny detail, I almost forgot clipping the third quick draw in the second go, the one with the blue biner a bit to the right, which would have been quite dangerous by the way if my belayer hadn't reminded me to clip it. So that's the state you actually want to be in when on-sighting or flashing, super determined, aggressive and so focused on moving upwards that you almost forget to clip the draws. Ironically, due to this mistake, the flash Manny ends up being earlier in the no-hands rest than the second go counterpart, although he climbed much slower and safer. And due to my tentativeness in the flash, I ended up resting a lot longer than in the second go, which is why I had to speed this part up a bit in order to have both climbers start simultaneously again. Another interesting thing is the super reachy move out of this rest. I knew it's going to be very far for me because even Lucas, who gave me the beta, was stretched out to max reach. Hesitative as I was during the flash, I tested out the move, went back into the rest mode again and pulled it through when it was time to start climbing again.
Geht sich ja eh aus.
Ja, schon, aber
Ja.
nicht so, dass ich auslassen kann. Nicht links haben.
Du musst ein bisschen weiter nach rechts mit dem Fuß.
The next moves are not easy and introduce that power endurance section, at the end of which the crux awaits. Again, I'm climbing much more quickly and determined in the second go, as you can see. Another indicator of this is how I deal with the arrival on this not so bad but not so good hold here. In the second go I kept climbing after only a short shakeout, while in the flash I shook a lot longer and discussed beta for ages. I literally didn't want to give up that good hold.
Mit links hinein auf diesen Aufleger. Ja. Und dann rechts die markierte Leiste.
And now we've reached the point where my second go counterpart cruises through the crux to the top of the route, which is why I'm going to stop him here so that we can focus on what happens in the flash.
Ah, mit links. Die Leiste hier weiter unten, die ist rechts von der Express. Ja, kann man auch. Man kann auch das mit links auf nach Schultern und über Kreuzen rein. Bin ich schwerer.
The next few moves after the mediocre rest were not easy but yet not super hard. But in the back of my head I knew that there was another very reachy move coming up subsequently, because yet again I saw how stretched out Lucas was on it. It goes from these two quite bad edges into a big pocket far to the right. I was not sure if I could use Lucas Beta, who simply grabs the left one with the left, the right one with the right and moves over. I wanted to try to reduce the distance a little bit by taking the edges in a crossover fashion, as you can see, but I figured it makes the holds much worse, which forced me to go for Lucas Beta. Now at this point I already was a little bit pumped, and the move was quite challenging from a coordinative point of view, because not only had I had to reach the pocket, but I also needed to hit it properly. And here I have to stop, because a lot of stuff is happening in a relatively short amount of time. I was in full focus for executing that move properly, and I managed to stick it really closely. At this point I was like, holy shit, that was close. Alright, now I need a foothold for my right foot immediately. But due to the fact that I was so stretched out, my face was literally sticking on the wall, which hindered me from looking below that belly above which I was situated now. As a consequence, I tried to step some ridiculously high stuff, which could have worked, but then my foot slipped off. And that's essentially how I messed up that flash. I didn't pay enough attention to the upcoming footholds. Let's take a look at how it should have happened by watching the second go again. Here I already was fully aware of that huge platform which resides below that belly and represents an ideal foothold for the right foot after that huge move in the pocket. And what I want to point out is that from this particular position I could have perfectly seen this huge big foothold, but I was so distracted by the upcoming far reach that I completely forgot about it. So the first lesson I learned from this was never forget about your footholds. Of course, the main objective is to get the handholds right, but often the feet are at least equally important. Always and permanently try to scan the wall for footholds, which you can utilize later on when the rest of your body is already a little bit higher. And also, most handholds become footholds later on. Remember them. And here's the point where the actual crux for most of the people starts, an interesting sequence on small undercling edges with a bit of compression. For me personally, the crux felt quite easy, and I thought that once I made it to the crux I would have good chances, because small holds and not too long moves suit my style pretty well. And I knew about these circumstances from watching Lucas trying it, who struggled a lot more with this part. So for me the hardest move was definitely the far reach to the right into that pocket, which I stuck so closely. all for nothing because I didn't pay enough attention to the footholds. The second lesson I've learned, and apparently I have to learn it over and over again, man, don't climb so fucking slow, you don't have time forever. But seriously, during a flash or an onsite, you have far better chances when you climb as if you would know the route already. You know the saying, fake it till you make it, and it's extremely powerful in this context. You're going to climb faster, more dynamically, and you'll save a lot of energy. Now, of course, you shouldn't overdo it for several reasons, for example, because you don't want to forget to clip your draws. But hey, skip a draw from time to time if it's not dangerous. The additional thrill can help a lot, actually. I think that's about all for this video, my friends. I hope I could immerse you a little bit in my thoughts about this messed up flash. Tell me in the comments down below what you think about this kind of videos, and leave a like if you've got something from it. And by the way, I hope you're having a nice Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays, and I'll see you in Greece.
Geht sich ja eh aus.
Ja, schon, aber.